Good morning. Good morning.
So good to see each and every one of you this morning. I will apologize. Wow, front row. Okay, let me. I will apologize for the coffee. If you drink the coffee out of the pot on the right, I thought a good healthy scoop of grounds was the way to go on that. It is not, just not as much. So, everyone doing well? How many of you work through chapter 1? Chapter 1. Okay, I have a few more books. I only have 3 left over there. If you need a book, they are there for you. Just make sure you put your name down and check it off so I know who gets them. I know a few more people had to have them. So this is a good sign. So I bought 30 with a couple extra workbooks because some of you had, oh, I got fruit snacks. I just remembered. They needed just the workbook. They took that, and so we have 3 more. So we bought 30 sets, and then I had to buy 15 more. So this is a good thing. This is a good thing.
That's the only recognition we're going to get for doing our homework. I'm not doing my homework.
Is that it? This is. I need. You need some. You need more. Okay. You know what? You want a duck? You want a duck? No, you can have one of my ducks. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else need a duck?
Can we get some Spider-Man stickers or something?
Hey, you know what? You know what? I'm gonna do something for you guys. Next week, Sally, help me out. Are we here next week? No. So next week, the week after, we're gonna have. What about donuts? You want donuts? I'll get you. That's not a donut. I don't know what that is, but it ain't a donut. I can tell you that. So maybe in 2 weeks. Next week we will be in Red River. We're going to have Lou Seckler. Did I say that correctly? Help me out. Yes? He'll be here. I was going to turn the class over to Jay, but Lou is coming in. He wants to talk about his work in Mexico and Latin America. And so he'll be in our class next week, and he'll be preaching as well. So that will be the change. But you still have to do your homework. Okay? Might be 2 weeks worth. Have you guys noticed there's 24 chapters? Have you looked in the table of contents? It's in the beginning of the book. We got a lot of stuff to cover. I don't mind going slow in the beginning. That is absolutely 100% great. I think we need to. They're going to be covering some stuff and an opportunity for you guys to start talking as couples. And so we'll start slow. We'll go chapter by chapter right now. When we get to the part 2, I think we're going to be able to cover a little bit more area, a little more ground as we go. Okay? So normally when I do a book study, you don't get the book. Okay? Because then I can look through the book, take what I want, talk about it, and whatever else. But now that you have the material, I have to herd cats. And that's what we're going to try to do in our Bible class. We're going to try to stay on task, but there's a lot of stuff to cover. So what I want to do is just kind of start from the very beginning. I don't want to hop around the chapter. I want to work through the chapter with you, some very point questions, and then we should be able to get through the whole thing. And if there's something that you want to pull out when we get to that point, whether it's in the book or the workbook, please say something. Did anybody else underline in their book? Highlighted? I highlighted too. Well done. But yeah, I highlighted and underlined and put notes in the column. And I was curious of what Sally thought about some of my notes, but she hasn't said anything yet. So I don't know if she agrees or disagrees. All right. So what do you think about the whole concept? What do you think about the concept of this crazy cycle? And can I... What do you think about what do you think about the crazy cycle? Go.
It sounds oddly familiar.
Sounds oddly familiar. Well, let me do this. What is the cycle? Let's put it on the board. What's the cycle? Huh? Okay, so I have a little bit of feedback. Yeah. Husband. Did I spell that right? Husband has no respect, or feels that way, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Husband feels no respect, therefore what happens? He shows no love. Therefore, what happens? The wife feels unloved. Therefore, what happens? She shows by the seashore, she shows no respect. Therefore, he doesn't feel like he has respect. I keep picking the wrong one up every week, so I'm going to get rid of it. And therefore, there's your crazy cycle. Right? I mean, that's what the book, that's what really chapter 1, he was introducing this crazy cycle. And have you been in it? Yes or no? 100% yes. I have been there. And we get there pretty quick sometimes, right? And is it hard to get out of the cycle? What's that?
If you're not aware of it.
If you're not aware of what's really going on, it is hard to get out of the cycle, right? So these are questions 1 through 4. If you have your workbooks, go ahead and open them up. We're looking at verses. Questions really 1 through 4 right now. And if there's something that you want to jump out on this, I want you to say something. But this is one of those things, and I'm going to look at page 14. If you want to go in your workbook, in page 14, because I'm curious about what you think about that list. There was a list on page 14 that you could go ahead and make some checks on it. But what I've learned was this is a real thing. This is not what's the word? It's not hypothetical. This is something that actually happens in marriages. This is something that he noticed. This is something that he noticed between he and his wife Sarah, and they got into this crazy, crazy cycle. And that Ephesians chapter 5 really comes in. Looking at page 14 in your workbook, which one, if you want to share, this is going to be if you want to share in class, but I want you, if you can, please do. Did you check any of those off? I'm going to share mine, okay? Are you guys looking at page 14? Those of you who didn't bring your book, you don't get a duck. You'll never get a duck, okay? So it talks about, does the crazy cycle apply to you? And this is the part of question number 4, the end of it. Check any of the following that apply. I see the crazy cycle starting when, I checked the first one. Did anybody else? When my spouse appears unreasonable. That never happens, right?
Not on your life. I would never check that. It never happens.
There's a scripture, Revelation 21:8. There's a song. I will sing you the song. Do you know the song? Revelation 21:8, 21:8. Liars go to hell, burn, 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 burn. I'm just bringing that up to the front right now. We're just having that open conversation. But let's go ahead and be honest. There's moments when we feel like they're being unreasonable because we're not communicating properly. We're going to talk about something else in just a minute when we look at questions 5 through 10. But I also checked when my spouse is harsh or critical. That's a hard one for me. That really, when I feel that harsh or criticism coming, and we'll talk about that at the very end because he really ends off in a good note, I feel like I have no respect. Let me back up for a second. Does this one surprise you? That husbands, why does God not want husbands to feel love? Why is it respect? Okay, they feel love through respect. So my question is this. There's actually a survey that was done at one of the Ivy schools. I remember this was a while back. One of the first times that we studied this, I went and found these statistics. And they asked men, do you want to be loved or do you want to be respected? What was the one that came out? What was the response? I want respect. Why? Can I just ask why? Gentlemen? Why do we feel that emotion? Why do we think respect is deeper than love? I'm sorry?
I said it validates us.
It validates us? Good. I'm just going to let you make some comments as we just go. I'm just kidding. Yeah, but yeah, we do. We're more mathematical, all right? A plus B equals C. I'm going here. What's the fastest route, right? Okay, we don't like, let's enjoy the experience. No, we got to get there, right? So we have that. Anything else?
We're wired and brought up to be people that make the right decisions.
Okay.
And so, if we make the wrong decision, then we need some way to save face. And so, if we make the right decision, it makes us feel good. It's just the way we're wired
Yeah.
and how we're brought up.
Okay. Good.
I think this is from a parenting perspective more than a marriage perspective. But my dad, when we were growing up, he said, I don't care if you love me. He said, I care that you respect me. And your love for me will come after you show respect.
Yeah.
I mean, because he knew that he would have to do things as our dad that we would not love. And he said as long as he was respected, we would gain in our maturity to understand what he was doing.
Yeah.
And like, now I'm just like, yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I've had to tell my own kids, I was like, I don't care if you love me. And I tell my students that I really don't care. And because you can't have authority over someone if you can be emotionally manipulated by them.
Okay, that's good. That's really good stuff. Yeah.
The only other thing I want to say is, I think it's vitally important, especially today, because the world is telling us as men that our roles as men don't matter.
Mhm.
And that's why I think it's crucial even more so today.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Ladies, why do you want to be loved and not respected? Why is the opposite? And that's what he talks about. He brings in, it's Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33, right? That's the whole book. The whole concept is built on that passage, and he goes from that passage. So ladies, why is it love for you and not the respect side? So why does God say, husbands, love your wives?
I kind of have an issue with the word love here.
Yeah.
For the wife, and I'm just speaking for myself. We've been married a long time, and that whole giddy love, the whole
That ship has sailed.
ship has sailed.
It's gone. Left the harbor.
And I'm okay with that. It's all fine, because love has so many different faces.
Yes.
And every now and then through this first or intercession, whatever, I could fill in the word of respect. I could interchange love and respect from my
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It could have not been love. I know you love me in all the different ways.
Yeah.
I need respect.
Okay.
And there, other things could have been inserted. He never, in this first part, he hasn't made it really clear what his definition of love is. There's 4 in the Bible.
Right.
One that is from Ephesians is agape.
It is.
Unconditional. But even so, sometimes it's not the love that I need or want to feel, it's different.
Yeah, so you're touching on a lot of different things right there. So when you look at Ephesians 5:33, it's agape, which means unconditional. And when he ties in later on, and we're getting to the end of it, but it's that 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1, when he ties back that unconditional respect back. And there's a lot of different roads we can walk down there. But it's interesting that if we actually can love our wives unconditionally, and we learn your love language, see, that's why I'm saying you're saying a lot of different things there. We need to understand love languages here. We need to understand how to love, But this is that command that God gives us and says, you need to unconditionally love your wife. So I like what you're saying. I think some of that's going to be rooted out a little bit more as we go through the book. I really do. And you're going to be able to talk about that within your marriage and with your spouse. And that goes for everyone in here, saying, what does that look like? But anybody else want to jump in? Ladies, you want to jump in on that whole love? Why do you want to be loved unconditionally?
I think from my perspective, when you talk about a crazy cycle, there's not only a crazy cycle in marriage, but women have their own personal crazy cycle. And I know there's sometimes that it's more difficult to love me than at other times. And so the fact that I know that you can show love to me through the hard times as well as the good times makes me feel very secure.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really deeply embedded in women too, is feeling that security, whether it was first from our daddies and now from our husbands.
I like that security. You know, that's something that is, you know, I hope you had a good father. I don't know everyone's background, but that is where you find that security and that love. Absolutely, yeah. And you do have moments. So, anybody else? Yes, Ivy.
So, I kind of agree with what she's saying because I feel like I can respect too, but I just now realized that is one of my love languages is words of affirmation.
There you go.
So it's more of the recognition and appreciation and understanding of what I do more than the respect for that.
Yes. Okay. Good. Yeah. That love, like I don't know if we have enough time, but there's a whole lot more to it in understanding each other, and that's the beautiful thing about understanding what's going on in our marriages, that you get to dive into some of these things, break them apart, break them down, and go, hey, this is where I'm at. Where are you at in this? And the conversations that you can have is absolutely wonderful. Hey, when you look at questions from, it's not verses, John, questions 5 through 10, what I noticed there, somebody go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 28. I want somebody to read 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 28. He uses it in the book. Marriage, have you noticed that marriage is not easy? Is that something that you were able to see while you read this first chapter, that it's not easy? I like listening to people like this and say, I hate this. Here's 7 steps and you're going to be great. Baloney, okay? I want to hear people that say, this is hard, we're still working on it, but what we're trying to do is give you tools to recognize and to work through it. And I love what he was, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, what does it say, 28? You got it, Josh?
Yep. But if you marry, you have not sinned, and if a virgin marries, she has not sinned. Yet such will have trouble in this life, and I'm trying to spare you.
Yeah. He's trying, but it didn't work, right? He goes, hey, there's going to be trouble within this. Paul's trying to tell us there's going to be issues, there's going to be difficulties. I love the examples he gives in his book. Do you guys remember the jean jacket example? What's the jean jacket example? I'm testing you now. You're like, oh, he really wants us to read this.
You didn't appreciate my gift.
So she gets him a jean jacket, gives him for Christmas. Am I right? For Christmas. Okay, I skipped that part. I read too fast. My bad.
That's the whole problem.
No, that's right. So he takes the jean jacket out. He looks at it, and what does he do? He says, thank you. Well, what does she expect? Yeah, because in her family, when you got a great gift like this that was made with loving hands, thank you, Tori, for pointing that out, you're supposed to get excited and just, oh, it's so good, I can't thank you. And he said, thank you. So what happened?
She says that you hate the gift.
Yeah, you hate the gift. And the first time, in the book, he was like, yeah, she believed that the first chance I got, I was going to take it to the Salvation Army and dump it off. But he goes, I was actually extremely thankful for the gift. But there was an expectation on one end, right? You guys don't have that in your marriages, right? Expectations of what you expect to happen. Can I tell the story or no? Your call. You're right, Jay. I'm going to walk by that one. Oh, she knows the story. She knows the story. It's a good story. One of these days, oh man, I'll think about it. I got 3 more points here. But there was expectations. And so he felt what? He felt disrespected because he didn't do anything wrong. He thanked her for the gift. He likes the gift, but he didn't understand her. She felt like unloved, right? Because he did not come back with the way that she thought he should have with this gift, right? Do you remember the next expectation that was there? They were at a Bible study. She said, you should have done better. Do you remember the wording like this? I wrote it down. You may be right, but wrong at the top of your voice. Do you remember that? So after a Bible study, they were going home, and she said, man, you weren't friendly to the new people. The answers that you gave were not very friendly. You kind of put them down. And her tone, she just got louder and louder in the car. And he said, look, you're right, but in the wrong voice, right? So it's not just yelling. How else does that come across? You may be right telling me that I need to make some corrections, but does it also come out of our tone of voice? Not yelling, but our tone? How else does that happen? Our words, what the actual words are. And what's that?
What she's doing. She's sitting there going, yes, is she pointing, is she got.
Right.
She said the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong people, and I can't believe you embarrassed yourself.
And body language plays a huge, huge role in that. I didn't even think about that. Good job, Charles. Huh?
And the setting. Are you in private or are you in public?
Oh, ooh, okay. That's a really good one, too. That's a really good one, too. So he's not saying she was wrong of saying these things to him, right? What did he say? What was the point that he's trying to make? It was how you were doing it. So he's feeling disrespected, so he's not going to show love to her. Then she's feeling unloved and not going to show him that respect. See the cycle? Okay, there's another example that we put in there. What did he do by accident? Because he's like me, really like me. Forgot her birthday. Okay. How did you like that story? How did you like it? I always thought, man, she is mean. That's what I thought. Do you guys remember the story? Yeah. Again, what we're trying to see in this is that the cycle is nasty. It can and it's going to happen. Okay? And I love what he said in the book and in the workbook, but he says, you know, when you're going through these moments, when you're going through these times, and you know you're entering into the circle, the question you have to ask yourself, does she feel loved? Does he feel respected? Right? So when we're going through these moments and such, we got to make sure we have that in the forefront of our mind. Dallas, go ahead.
But that specific example, if I remember correctly, she hit all the cards and all the things that might help her quicker. So as a female, I'm also saying this to myself, it's nothing much to fail either. Because I don't necessarily feel like that was fair for her to do that with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of spiteful. So like, I mean, she kind of seemed like she was, you know, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, he did forget her birthday and took someone out to lunch on her birthday.
Ray.
I mean, she might have been wrong for doing that stuff, but he was also a jerk. I mean, if Heather went out to lunch on her birthday, I would
There is a fine line of manipulation.
If I laid out birthday cards around, I would be accused of being manipulative. So there's a fine line there.
There is. Do you want me to tell that story? I got another story. No, that's right.
Ladies have to realize you're married to a retarded goat. You don't hint things, you tell them things. My birthday is next week on Tuesday. That's what you look at and you speak, you use slow words and you look them in the eye.
Slow words.
Slow words. My birthday.
But also, isn't it like just part of your responsibility to get a calendar?
I don't feel loved if I have to remind you that
Welcome to herding cats. All right, let me get the person in the back. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can guarantee you in that situation, that wasn't the first time something like that happened. Because with women, it's just, or at least for myself, it is a series of things that leads up to a bigger thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes that moment is actually from something like has happened repeatedly in the past. So let's kind of test the waters on this one. You're right, and all of those look different, right? And yeah, they do. But yeah, we can say that out loud right now if we need to. I love what he said about Solomon. Do you remember? Are the Thurmans here? Oh, okay, too bad. Chapter 2 and verse 15. Do you remember what he talked about in the book? What did he call that? Little foxes. Okay, so explain the little foxes to me. From the book and the workbook. Little foxes.
They're the little mannerisms, the little problems that crop up that each individual one might not be something huge, but they add up over time.
Okay, so it's the little problems that are always out there and we're not taking care of them. Right? Anybody else want to jump in? Am I right? Are we good? Yes?
Well, we did a study, I did a study on this with my college group, and we talked about how little foxes eventually become big foxes.
Yes.
Little foxes will bite at stuff and just be kind of annoying, but big foxes can wreck you.
Yeah. And if we don't handle that situation, they're going to grow. And then usually when we have to face them, we have a lot more issues, right? So why do we ignore the little foxes in our marriages? What? We believe they'll go away. Okay. Somebody else?
Doesn't it sometimes kind of be nitpicky? Like, if you pick at, like, all the little things, I mean, it would just be so annoying every time.
You have a list, huh? Yes, you're right. So you don't want to be nitpicky, but it goes back to these fine lines, right? But this is what I've learned within marriage, and I'm still learning, open communication, right? The little things can be fixed if they know about them. But if we don't ever communicate by them, I like your analogy really well. Those big little foxes turn into the big ones, and things are going to get wrecked, right? One of those things that we can do very simply is to communicate. There are trouble spots in all of our marriages. No one in here has a perfect marriage, right? And we need to make sure we don't ignore those things. Okay, questions 11 through 12. Somebody read Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. We need to go there. We need to talk about it. This is the passage that he really bases what we're going to be looking at. Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33. All right, who wants to read that?
However, each of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband.
Yeah, so that whole passage is talking about husbands and wives. It talks about Christ and the church. We're making a lot of analogies here, but he really comes down. And he says in his book, this is what just kind of hits him at the very end. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let his wife see that she respects her husband. Guys, I have a question. How do you understand unconditional love? And if you do, will you put it into your own words, guys? Okay, you'll do anything for that person, including dying. Okay. Anything less extreme? Because I mean.
Do the things that she doesn't want to do. Comes back from work, she's wore out. Now work to the dishes need to go. Someone's gonna go. She's tired. I need to take them to go.
Okay. So taking care of each other.
I mean, proud about it, but it's gonna be done.
Every good man pouts. You're fine.
I go back to verse 25.
Okay, go ahead and read it out loud.
Husbands, love your wife just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
Okay.
To me, it's a removing myself from the picture. I have to do away with my desires and my wants in order to love her unconditionally.
Is that fair?
It wasn't fair that
True. But, man, isn't marriage supposed to be fun and enjoyable and I get stuff out of it?
It is, sir.
What? Go ahead. Go.
Marriage isn't 50-50. Marriage is 100-100. Everybody, both sides have to do what needs to be done. And so you may not enjoy doing it, but it's what you signed up for. And it has to do with respect, it has to do with love. Both parties have to do it.
Yeah. I love it. Anybody else? Guys?
And as the leader of the family submitting to Christ and to God's will, there can be things that are unexpected, there can be things that are uncomfortable, there can be things that the man also doesn't want to do. It's like, but I kind of know God is telling us to do this.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
It's self-sacrifice.
Self-sacrifice.
Not what I want, but it's what's best for us.
Okay?
You have to, I think it goes back into dating life too. You have to, I mean, even if it's not going out of the house, especially when we're at young kids right now, it's finding that time after the kids are in bed to spend time together, whether that's watching a movie or just talking or, eating dessert late at night, whatever, talking to each other. Because if you don't get to know your wife, you're not going to know how to serve her.
Yeah.
The way that she needs. And if you stop doing that, people change over the years. We've changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And if you don't notice that, and you don't continue to do that, it's going to be hard to serve her and love her the way she needs.
I love it. You're spending time. You're still getting to know. There's different phases of life, and people are going to change in those phases of life, right? You remember when you had no kids? That was fun, right? Then you had kids, and it was like, okay. Then they leave, and it's like amazing again. It's wonderful until they come back, and then you're like, what are you doing here? Leave. I'm just kidding. Is she here? No. Go ahead.
I don't know, I might throw something out there that could be a point of contention, but Amanda and I, we don't keep score because we have this respect for one another, we have this love and respect for one another equally. But I think if one of us was doing all of the sacrifice, that's when we start losing score.
Mm-hmm.
And that'd be a big problem.
Be a huge problem. Absolutely. It's one of those things, and let me make 2 points, and we're doing really well today. 2 points. Number one, this is what God wants a man to do because we're not good at it. Right? This is where we kind of draw a little bit short. It's not that we don't know how to love, but we expect certain kinds of love. And what he's asking us is saying, okay, I need you to go back to Christ. I need you to see what Christ did. Look at his life and how he loved people. And that's how you treat your wife. There's times of love and compassion and mercy and grace. There's time when you give up you because it's not about you. And he understands, as men, we're not good at this. Now, ladies, you're really good at this. He doesn't say, love your husband, because you have this ability. And this is why I love God and how he made us so different, but we go so well together. And he says, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what it's supposed to be. And I think it goes back to what you're saying, Sean. I think she's able to love you because that's a part of what she is. And we have to learn that on that other side. But an unconditional love is God-centered and not me-centered. It's not even Sally-centered. It's God-centered. Go ahead.
I don't know if anybody else picked up on this, but it dropped all over my toes with this verse in Ephesians as being a commandment to respect your husband. Because I grew up with the idea that respect is earned.
Very good. Where do we learn that? Tell me where we learn. Where do we learn?
I learned that. It just seemed like that's the way it always was.
Okay.
There are certain behaviors and attributes that, offer the opportunity for respect for an individual.
Mm-hmm.
But I also grew up like that. It was kind of declared respect, you will respect your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, only problem with that is that when you look at it from a manager's, of a company's, perspective, if you demand or you exert your authority over an employee, that person will, turn away from you 100% of the time.
Yeah.
If you, act as you're the leader, that person will follow you.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. And I think it's going to come out with everything they're going to be talking about. And if you didn't hear what he said this. You know, we've had, in the business world, if you have that leader, and I had many of those. I use crew chiefs when I used to do my job in summer. The crew chiefs that went beside me, taught me, and worked with me, I respected. They would say, John, go do this. Done. I'm all over it, right? The crew chief that did nothing and made me do everything, it was okay for him to pick up something heavy once in a while, and I didn't make myself available, right? And I think that's that love we're supposed to love, because God understands that we're not really great at it, so we need to make sure we're focusing on it. Also, he also knows this. That's what she needs. So make sure you're giving this to her. Dijon.
Unless I'm wrong, Jennifer and I both talked about, she was talking about what is the definition of love here, but the actual definition, when I looked up what the word respect was in Greek here, it actually says to fear or to flee from.
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand for the context of the book and the class, fear and respect, love and respect is really easy for us to all understand, but that word, it says actually the same word as the fear of the Lord.
Yes. Right. So, yeah, it's that healthy respect. Like, I had a healthy fear of my father. I wasn't scared of him, but I understood who he was within the family. He understood, and he wanted the best for me and such. We'll get into it. I promise.
Just on the crazy cycle, there's also a positive cycle.
Okay.
When he does show.
Okay, that's the end of the book. That's the end of the book. Okay. But I hear you. If we get this right, if we love our wives, then the cycle turns, right? Because I'm taking care of her, I'm fulfilling those needs. Dijon, put your hand down.
Give me a timeout.
Go, fast.
You can't rush this class, John.
I have to work in a couple minutes, but go ahead.
One thing we didn't bring up there is it says love as you love yourself.
Good.
And sometimes I think that's where I fail, is I don't love myself enough
Ooh.
to love like I should.
So, have you ever noticed the... That's a private conversation later, but have you ever noticed the two commandments, love the Lord your God, your heart, mind, soul, blah, blah, blah? What's the second commandment? Love your neighbor, what? As? We never talk about as yourself. It's a healthy relationship here. How do you love without? That's why I'm saying God-centered all the time. If I'm God-centered, I have a healthy relationship and I can love somebody else. Okay. He connects, we got to go this really fast. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. He connects the other side, and it's crazy, okay? This is what he says. Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of your wives. Now, he goes on and he talks about here, hey, you might be married to an unbeliever, right? He doesn't say get rid of them. What do they say? I just read it. You can win them over. A crazy way is by what? It's through that respect. Now, it's one of those things, again, I don't understand why God created this and how he made us this way, but I do want this respect. And God says, hey, this is what a man wants, and he needs this, right? And we want to make sure on the other side, usually, the passage in 533 didn't really go into it, but right here it really demonstrates to us, hey, there's something on the other side that needs to happen, and it is this healthy respect that we're supposed to give to our husbands. And if we respect him, we'll talk about it more because we have to go, then this love cycle can change to a very positive cycle instead, okay? So what I was hoping for, and it didn't work, was talking about things you underlined in the book. So I will work faster next week to get through some of my material that I want to talk about, bring out, and find out what you've underlined. Remember, hey, minimum one chapter. You should be able to get through 2 because we don't have class next week. I'm not here next week, correct? No, not here next week. She's scheduling. I'm just PR. Okay, look. And so next week we'll have Lou Seckler in here. Please be here. I know he's doing a great work. So you should be able to get at least 1 to 2 chapters. Go through the workbook together. Let me know how you're doing. Love you guys. Have a great day.